Hey guys, welcome back to another video. My name's Daggett, and in today's video we're going to be covering a traditional style rose design. I thought we would take a little break from doing those sort of tutorials and let's just do a one-off traditional style rose tutorial. So, we're going to jump straight into today's video by going to the overhead. Okay guys, we are back at the table. So, today's video we're doing a smaller design, a little bit more simple, but there's certainly going to be some techniques and elements for you guys to learn from. So in today's video, I've got a small piece of cold press watercolor paper that I've just cut out of a larger sheet. And this is the same watercolor paper we used in the previous series, the koi fish series. I've also just got a standard sort of sketch pack with just normal paper. And I've just ruled out the same size as the watercolor paper that I've got here, which we'll get back to shortly. So to start this one off, we're using the mechanical pencil, and I will zoom in a little bit for clarity's sake. Okay, so to start this one off, we're going to put in a circle, and this circle can go wherever you'd like on the page, but try to keep it central in terms of your borders. So let's not try and go too crazy outside the borders there. And then on this circle, we're just going to draw in some curved lines. So we'll do one coming across like this, one cutting through like that. Might do another one that comes down. And you can sort of have fun with these and do them in all different orientations. Don't feel the need to copy what I'm doing here. Although if it helps you to learn, feel free to do so. We'll do a curved line that goes around the back like that. And we'll just join that up. Same thing for the other side. And then on the inside here will be some sort of smaller petals, and that we won't worry about that for now. On the outside of this, we're going to do our petal arrangement. So to do this, what we're basically drawing is these straight lines coming out of the main part of the rose. And they can come to a tip. Have a fairly abstract sort of flowing shape to them, and then join back in. And for some of the petals, I also like to do this sort of shape, which is almost like the bottom of a love heart sort of shape, and then put these little foldovers at the edges of the petal. And you can go around and just add as many petals as you desire using the same method. So basically, you're just curving out and back into a point, and then from that point curving back out and into the rose. And I'll add a few more petals here. We'll do one here. From here we start to draw in the foldovers. So I'm going to have a bend in the middle here. Basically just two little W shapes or M shapes. Same for here. Might do one there and one curve there, and then join that up underneath. For this one, we'll do a big one like that. Join it up underneath. And these lines of the circle basically join up to create the bottom half of the petal. And then there's obviously the fold over. This little triangle sort of shape one, there's going to be a fold here and a fold here. For the circular ones that wrap around the back, they're going to come around and then join back in like this. And then for the center of the flower, I'm just going to do like an M shape, a little curve, maybe another M shape, a couple more little curves. These are just like the small petals on the inside, and you can sort of just sketch them out roughly. There's no need to be super accurate or precise on those. From here we're going to do placement of our leaves. So I'm going to do one leaf coming out from the bottom here. You just draw a straight line in, turn it into a peak by doubling up on that curved line, and then two large curves on the outside of that to give us our leaf. And you want to make the leaves pretty big. One of the common problems I see with designs, especially that include roses, is that the leaves are too small. Rose leaves are fairly big. I sort of try to keep all of the rose leaves in a relevant sort of size to how big the rose is. I think it's a really important part of drawing floral elements, is making sure the leaves are the right size. So at some parts of the design, I'm going to put in a different style of leaf. This is just to give it a bit of variety, and it's something you see pretty common with some traditional designs. Basically the way to do that is just to draw a skinny little leaf shape like that. Okay, so it's basically the same as our outside shape of our bigger leaves, just shrunk down and really skinny. And you basically don't add any sort of center vein to it. And these can be sort of random, and just gives the design a little bit more bulk, fills it out a little bit more. In terms of filling the design out a little bit more, something else I like to do is throw in just a few sort of branch areas. So we can have like basically these little curved branches that are coming off. I guess it's like rose vines or something like that. I don't know, they're not called that. So basically I just like to draw these little sort of sticks or twigs coming out from the rose. And again, this just helps bulk the design out, gives it a little bit of variety. And if you're just drawing a rose, if there's no other subject matter, I think it does help to sort of give the design a little bit more character. From here, I'm just going to throw in a stem. Nice and simple. I'm going to follow a line from here, bring it down and around like that, double up on that line, tapering out and getting slightly wider towards the end here. Just an oval to cap it at the end. And on the end of that oval, I'm just going to do a little loop-de-loop. It's just a little loop that curves up at the end. And that's a style preference sort of thing. You don't have to do it. On the inside of our little oval shape here, I'll do another one that's more like an upside down teardrop. So there's actually a point at the bottom of both of these. Now coming up our stem, we're going to add in a few small details. So I might add a little leaf here. Maybe off to the other side, I'll do the same. Just add a small leaf in. And then coming up our design here, we're just going to throw in some thorns. And for the thorns, it's pretty straightforward. They're just like little shark fins. Okay, little shark fins I think is probably the best way to describe it. Okay, in terms of throwing some leaves onto our stem, I might have one leaf that comes off in this direction. That's just one of our little plain leaves. And then off in the other direction, I'll have a point where the branch splits off into the leaf, like this. And I'll do one of our slightly bigger leaf shapes, similar to these ones here. Okay, so a little detail on drawing the leaves. I tend not to bother with this until the inking stage. I just stick with these as a template. But I will show you, basically we have that there. To join it to the tip, I do a little V shape like this. Okay? And then we basically do these little bumps that are just long sort of curved lines that join back up into the center vein of our flower like that. And for the other side, they're going to be going in the opposite direction, like this. And then I just join those up with these little curved lines. And that's basically how we do all of the leaves. Okay, so the sketch portion of this is actually finished. We are going to go ahead and outline this now. And we're going to do a very similar process to what we did in the koi fish video. We're actually going to take our little sheet of watercolor paper that we cut out earlier, and we are going to tape it to our page. We'll just get everything lined up like this. And that gets taped onto our sketch. From here, we take our light pad. Like I said in the previous series, if you don't have a light pad, you can use a glass table. Turn your iPhone torch on and stick it underneath so it shines up through the paper. Or if you don't have that, you can go the real old school method and just hold it up to a window or tape it to a window and just stand there and trace. It's not going to take you long to trace this design anyways. So now that I've got my light pad on, I can obviously see through the paper onto my watercolor paper, and I'm going to go ahead and outline this. I'm going to be using the Staedtler pigment liner in a 1.2 thickness for most of the design, and my Artline drawing system pens, I'll probably use a 0.5 just for those inner veins on the leaf. So I'm going to go ahead and get this outlined now, and once it's outlined, we'll get into the next part, which will be painting. Okay, so I've gone ahead and outlined our design. Like I said, I used that really thick marker for most of it, and I just used the 0.5 for the inner veins on the leaves. The reason I've done such a bold outline on this thing is because it is a traditional style design, and with traditional style designs, it's important, I think, to have a really bold sort of outline. I'm going to go ahead and take our masking tape, and we're going to do exactly what we did in the Koi Fish series, and that is mask off an inch border around the entire thing, or obviously depending on how thick your masking tape is will determine the thickness of that border. So you're basically going to lay down masking tape as close as you can to the edge on all the sides, and then we'll get to the next part. Okay, so I've got all my edges taped up, and even with a really simple small design like this, you can still do a really nice background using this tape method, and it's still going to give you that really clear border that just makes the design look really nice. So we are using my Liquitex acrylic inks today. Like I said in last week's video, if you don't have them, feel free to go ahead and use the Ecoline brush pens or Copic markers or colored pencils, whatever it is that you have. But in this case, we'll use the acrylic inks, and I'm going to take this turquoise color. It's a deep turquoise, and we're going to use this to do our background. You're not going to need a whole lot of it because there's not a whole lot of background area, and we just need the two brushes and a glass of water. So my two brushes, if you don't know, I've got my inking brush and my water brush or my blending brush. They're just synthetic Taklon hairs, and I've got a glass of water for dipping. So what we're going to do is go ahead and pre-moisten our page using our water brush, and I'll start down in this corner here, and we'll just pre-wet the page a little bit, and we'll take a bit of our turquoise color. It's a really, really nice deep turquoise, and we'll lay that down in the corner like this, and we're going to take our blending brush and just blend that right out to white, being careful not to paint over our roses. And you're basically going to go around the page and do the same thing in each corner, just pre-moistening the page, getting a bit of water on there, adding a bit of our turquoise color to the corner, like this, and then taking our blending brush and just blending it out. Okay, so I've done all of the turquoise in the corners of our page and just blended it to a soft sort of white or light tone in the middle, and that's it for our background. Really simple on this one, and there's not much to it. So we can take our masking tape off, and we get that wonderful satisfying border right along the edge of the page. Okay, and that gives us a really nice clean background to work with. So we're going to go ahead and start painting our rose. We're using the same spit shading method I taught you in the last series. Basically, the brush you use for blending, you run it through your lips to draw out the excess moisture. This gives you great control over the amount of moisture that's in the nib. So I've got carbon black just here, and I'm going to lay down a little bit of my Pyrrole red as well. That's going to be our primary color for this thing, so you need a little bit extra. We'll use a little bit of sap green in our leaves. So I'll put a bit of sap green down. And I've also got this transparent raw umber that I'll be using. If you don't have this, maybe just use like a mid-brown, sort of light brown tone. And we're not using that for, you know, a whole bunch of the design, so I wouldn't stress about it too much. So as always, we start off with black shading. As you can see, I've got my black ink in the same place that I always keep it, which is on the left side of this small palette. And we're going to go ahead and start laying in our blacks. So we're going to take our water brush, get that pre-moistened, dip our inking brush into our black, load your brush up fairly heavily, and we'll start with this petal here. So our technique for doing this is going to be pretty simple. Basically, we're going to lay in a small semicircle on our petal, just like this. That's roughly the size you want it. And then take the blending brush and run it along the edges of your circle. And just gently blend that out a little bit. Basically doing dark from the inside of the flower out is probably the best way to explain the pattern for our black shading here. Okay, with the petals shaded, we're going to start shading on the inside of this portion. The small petals we did at the top will not have any shading in them. For these two portions, we're going to do shading right in the corners there. So we take our black and do just a little bit in the corner. And you do want to be careful not to go too heavy in this part. Unless for some reason, aesthetically, that's what you're going for. So a little bit in that corner. For this portion here, we're going to do a little bit of black in the crease down the bottom, in that V shape. And then gently blend that up. Like that. For the one here, we do the same thing, a little bit of black in that crease. The V shape at the bottom. And then just blend it out. And for these lowermost ones, what we're going to do is basically a little bit of shading just underneath the fold over where there'd be a little shadow, and then blending it out. Okay, little semicircle of black into grey. The shading of the leaves follows the same technique all the way around. Basically, you take your black, you lay it down next to the center of your leaf, that big center vein, and then you take your blending brush, run it alongside this, and just blend it out to a grey. Once you've got all of your leaves shaded, you're going to go ahead and go to the smaller leaves and shade those. So they're pretty straightforward. Basically, we take a little bit of black, and on an angle, we just apply that black on an angle. Take our water brush and just blend that up. And you basically do that for all of the small leaves on your design. Okay, last bit of black that we're going to do is on the stem itself. This is really straightforward. Basically, from this top portion of the stem, we're just going to do a bit of black where it's hiding underneath the flower and the leaves. And then we'll blend that down into our grey, followed through to a white, and a little bit of black in this little corner down the bottom here. And just gently blend that up. Okay, so as you can see, all the black and grey components of our design are shaded. If you were doing this as a black and grey design, you'd be finished at this point. So, I think it makes a really nice design even as a black and grey rose, but that coloured background really helps it sort of stand out. We're going to make it pop even more now using our colours. Okay, so we're going to start with the Pyrrole red. We're just going to load up a little bit of that red onto our brush. And we're going to start by painting these small petals on the inside. And we're basically going to paint them the exact same way that you would paint scales on a koi fish like we did in the last video. You're going to basically just paint them solid red and leave a white border on the petal. Okay, and you're going to do that for all of these inside petals of the flower. There's no sort of blending or shading involved on these inner petals. I like to keep them nice and light, just solid red with a white border. For shading in the main area of our rose bulb here, you're basically going to follow the dark to light principle. So I'll give you an example in this corner. We've done black to grey to white. So we're going to saturate over the top of that with red. And we're going to go black to grey in the red, mixed with the red, out to about here. And then we're just going to take our blending brush and gently blend that up to the edge. And as usual with my stuff, we're just leaving that little white border along the edge of the rose there. Let's say you're shading this sort of center part. You're going to do it exactly the same. You're going to take some of your Petal red, go over the top of your black and grey, coming upward. And just as it starts to get lighter towards the top there, we take our water brush or our blending brush and we blend it up until it meets white, and there's a little gap right up on the edge there. And you're going to do that for all areas of our bulb. Okay, so I don't want to get too repetitious here, but essentially we've done the center of the flower, and our petals are going to follow the exact same method. We're going to do dark to light and leave a white border. You do have to work a little bit faster with the petals because it is a much larger area. But to give you an example, we'll take our Petal red and load your brush up fairly heavily. And you're going to go straight over the top of your blacks in this sort of semicircle fashion. Take your blending brush and basically come right up to that edge and just leave your white border. And try to soften your red out a little bit by the time it hits that border. It doesn't have to be the lightest sort of red, but if you can soften it out just a little bit before it hits that border, you'll get a nice feathering and a nice sort of gradient from solid red to the white. You're basically going to go ahead and do that for all parts of your petals. So we'll come right underneath this overlap from dark, from the most black point of the petal, and we'll take our blending brush, basically blend that red out to the edge and just leave that little white gap. And you're going to go ahead and paint each and every petal of the flower like this. So as you can see, I've painted all of the petals red. I've also painted the tips of my leaves red, that little V shape or the diamond shape at the end of the leaves. That's an aesthetic thing. It's a style preference. You don't have to do it, but I think it looks nice. And I've also gone and painted the thorns red and just blended them out a little bit. And the end of our stalk here, that little teardrop shape, I've done that one red as well. We're going to go ahead and paint all of our greens in now. That's it for the reds. And the greens are pretty straightforward as well. Pretty much using the exact same method of following dark to light principle. So we'll take this leaf as an example where it's black. We'll paint our green straight over the top of it, straight over the top of our grey. And then take our blending brush and blend that green out. And you can see it gets nice and vibrant as it blends out into the white edge of our paper. And you basically do that on either side of all of our leaves, covering over the top of our black and our grey. And then with the blending brush, blending that green out to a white. And you're basically going to go around and do that for all of your leaves. For the smaller leaves, it's the same thing. Dark to light, you go over the top of your blacks and your greys. Take your blending brush and blend it out towards the tip where you'll leave it either light or, very light or white. Okay, so the last thing to do is to paint our little twigs and also the center vein on our leaves. And we're going to go ahead and use our transparent raw umber for that one. like I said, this is, you could use different sort of browns and different light brown tones to sort of get this shade. Don't stress too much about it. It's certainly not even my favorite color to use for this sort of thing. But, it just depends what you've sort of got available. Also depends on what other colors you're using in your design. You want to have sort of complementary colors that work well together. So it just depends on what you're doing. But you're basically going to go through and use a light brown sort of color to paint your twigs and the center vein on your leaves. And I don't really like to do any blending on these, just straight color, no shading, but do as you please. Now, of course, last thing to do is to go ahead and sign your artwork. I think I'm going to do the signature in this corner down here. And that's it for this one. We've got a beautiful traditional style rose with a nice colored background and a border. That is it, guys. Thank you so much for watching today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you learned some new techniques and tricks to add to your arsenal. I think our design came out really cool. We've got this really nice traditional style rose with a beautiful turquoise background. I think it looks really, really nice. Please let me know in the comment section down below what you'd like to see in the next tutorial, what you want to see in next week's video, or just any recommendations. If you want to see art challenges, tutorials, anything like that, just leave a comment in the comment section down below. If you want to see your artwork featured on my channel, head over to Facebook at Daggett Designs. Flick me a DM with a picture of your artwork and it may get featured on one of my videos. If you like the koi fish series that we just finished up, but you want more reference pictures to go off, head over to daggettdesigns.com.au and pick up my Daggett Designs digital brush pack. This includes 2 koi fish designs, I think 3 or 4 goldfish designs, and a whole bunch of Japanese style flowers, waves, and leaves. So if you're struggling with composition or if you just want more reference pictures, head over there. It's on sale at the moment for just $20. Most of all, guys, if you want to support me, there's one thing you can do. Hit the like button underneath this video, and if you're new to my channel, hit that subscribe button, hit the notification bell so that you don't miss a new video when they come out. Okay, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Keep drawing. Bye.